Hello. I'm going to read you a little story I wrote about 45, 50 years ago. I wrote it a long time ago. I just don't remember how long it's been. Anyhow, the name of it is Progress Can't Erase Fond Memories. I've wandered to the village tom. I've sat beneath a tree upon the schoolhouse playground that sheltered you and me. The lines are taken from a poem 40 years ago, one of the classes in the McGuffey Fifth Reader. As a child, my father frequently read to me the stories and poems from the McGuffey. At that tender age, waiting for Christmas was an eternity, and 40 years was an incredible span of time for me to comprehend. I didn't realize how quickly the time would pass, and I too would visit my first school site and remember my classmates of 40 years ago. I walked across the playground, but only a few reminders were left to see. The old schoolhouse was gone, and the land had been redeveloped. Although progress had melted away the visible evidence, nothing could erase the fond memories of my classmates. I started to school when I was 6, in a small rural community. It was a 2-room school with a ding-dong bell that had a mind of its own. The teacher usually relied on a handbill to call the children to class. I remember Jerry. His grandfather operated a country store near the school. To me, Jerry was a rich kid. He always came to school clean, and he was never one to start trouble. He was serious about his lessons, and I knew that someday he would be successful, and he was very successful. Mary Frances and Carol were 2 little girls I envied most. They wore beautiful, bright-colored snowsuits, little fluffy muffs, fuzzy hats and tassels, and shiny boots. They were darling little girls, friendly and nice to everyone. When Kent moved into the neighborhood, he made it perfectly clear that he didn't want any little girl staring at him. I thought he was stuck up because he was always looking in his billfold. He kept patting his pocket, making certain it was still there. I tried, but never did find out what was so important in that billfold. We became friends after he defended me from another boy who had tossed my lunch in the creek. My favorite little friend was Dee. He was named after President Roosevelt, and he carried that name with him with a considerable amount of pride. He was constantly boasting about it. I don't know if I fell in love with his aviator cap and goggles or the packets of cinnamon drops he stuffed into my desk. Either way, Juliet never loved Romeo more than I loved Dee at that time. The most unforgettable lady was my first grade teacher, Mrs. Fisher. She was always seemed to know when I was hurting and would sweep me up into her arms and carry me inside. After a few soft-spoken words from her, everything would be all right. I loved her dearly. When I learned she would be not returning the next year, I cried for days. That experience left me with bitter and empty feelings. I made certain that wouldn't happen to me again and made it a point not to get too close to my teachers. 40 years had passed, and there were no screams of excitement, clapping hands, or bursts of laughter, no whistles or cries of joy that once soared from the old school ground. I walked away feeling a little sad, with all my memories safely locked inside. I glanced over my shoulder one more time to take that last look. I could almost hear someone yell, "Hold the bat over the plate, Perry." Well, that's another little story of my life. Back when I went and visited my old school. Thank you for listening. Thank you for watching. And thank you for your support.